Hi, hello everyone, and welcome to Nathan Wrigley from WP Builds. I'm so happy to have you here on WP Mondo, a new web show. And I'm looking forward to hear your story, your personal story, your story around WordPress and your WP Builds. And I want to let you introduce yourself.
Okay, so first off, this is really unusual for me because normally I'm in the other chair, if you know what I mean. Normally I'm the person asking questions, and so I'm going to find this a little bit peculiar because I always ask that question as well. Introduce yourself. So, okay, here we go. My name's Nathan Wrigley. I live in the UK. I live in Yorkshire, which is a really nice part of the UK. Fairly, it's kind of like 3/4 of the way between the bottom of the UK, well, the bottom of England and Scotland. So it's up in the north and it's pretty rural, live close to the sea. I have a family, wife and 3 kids, and all of that's really nice as well in this part of the world. And I guess you want to know about the WordPressy bit, maybe. I didn't start WordPress as early as a lot of the people I interview. When I do these interviews on my podcast, some people have an incredible heritage, going back almost two decades in some cases. For me, it was about 2015. I honestly can't tell you the date, but it was about 2015. I've been building websites since before the year 2000. Started off doing it in a text editor, HTML, and then tables. And then CSS came along and it was all very horrible. And then discovered things like Dreamweaver, which was an Adobe. Well, it wasn't originally Adobe, but it became an Adobe product. So played with that for a while. And then CMSs came along. PHP started to get, popular. And I began playing with things like Magento and Drupal and Joomla, and got really, really into Drupal on the same level as I am now into WordPress. I was really fascinated by it. And then when the version went from 7 to 8, I don't know if you know, but Drupal, when they go from one major release to another, they kind of disregard a lot of the heritage. They say, okay, it's a breaking change. If you go from 7 to 8, you're going to have to rebuild those sites. Don't click the button because that's not going to be the way it works. So I'd done that a few times with Drupal and thought, do you know what? I'm fed up of that. Let's go to something a little bit more backwards compatible. So I messed around and found WordPress, installed it, and immediately thought it was really nice to look at. I know the UI hasn't changed in the admin much, although that's about to change. But at the time, the Drupal UI was significantly. It was not as nice. Let's just leave it that way. It wasn't as nice as the WordPress UI. So I thought, oh, okay, let's play around with this. And that's it. I've done nothing else ever since. Literally done nothing else. I've played with WordPress, tinkered with WordPress, built websites with WordPress, podcast about WordPress, dream about WordPress.
Oh,
Just it's all a bit pathetic, really, but that's the way it is. And then more recently, in about the year 2016, I think it was, I was in a Facebook group about WordPress, and got chatting to a chap there, an English fella called David Wormsley. And I can't even remember how it happened, but I asked him the question, do you want to do a podcast? Like you do. And he said, yeah, all right, let's give it a go. And I don't honestly think either of us had any expectation that we'd do it for any length of time. We just thought, let's see what it's like. And I haven't not done it since then. And I mean, what is that? It's like eight and a bit years or something now. Produced episodes pretty much every week, and it's grown, and now it's what I do. David Wormsley is now no longer doing the WP Builds podcast with me, but he's still a good friend, and we speak a lot and do another podcast, which is nothing to do with WordPress. It's all about HTML, CSS, and web standards. But I won't promote that here because that's not WordPress related. But yeah, is that enough? Should I stop now?
Yeah, that was a pretty long introduction.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's nothing else to say.
So the first thing I wanted to say is that the goal, yes, of this category is host the hosts, and it's because you put the light on other people when you host them, and that's the goal, to have the light on you for once.
Yeah.
That's why I contacted you and other people in the same. I mean, other interviewers and hosts of other shows and podcasts. And yeah, great. And I remember the Drupal 7 to 8. period. But yeah, Drupal is good, and as it's, I mean, to each their own, and I think there are good use case for other CMSs as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I really didn't. I didn't have any objection to Drupal. It was just that I don't know. You know how when you just get a little bit, what's the word? When you're over familiar with something, and I'd been using Drupal for years, and I cast my net around, and it just looked so nice. And then I discovered the community much later, and that was, I think, the glue that held me in WordPress and meant that I wasn't going to go anywhere, because I didn't find that same community in Drupal. I know it exists, but I never found it.
Mhm.
Perhaps if I had, I would have stayed with Drupal. But I found the WordPress community, and that's the sort of glue that bound me to it for the last, 9 years or so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mean the community, and especially I will talk about WordCamp Europe, because at WordCamp Europe we are meeting people from all over the world. So it's that feeling that we get when we arrive. I was not an organizer before. This year it was a bit different, but I mean, when you arrive and you know that you are going to, I'm going to see Nathan, I'm going to see Bob, and I'm going to see my friends from, I don't know, Bangladesh and Japan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. It's great. Those events are properly brilliant, actually. And if you're listening to this and you've never attended a WordPress event, whether that's, a more local meetup, which is probably just one evening or something like that, or a local WordCamp, which might be a day or 2 days. I actually went to one on Friday in Whitley Bay, and that was just one day. It began at 9 in the morning and finished at, I don't know, 4:30, 5, something like that. That was really nice as well. It's profoundly friendly. It would be my message, and if you're very gregarious and outgoing, you won't hesitate, will you? You just go and enjoy it. But if you're a bit more introverted or shy, then fear not, because it really is very, very, very welcoming. And over a period of years, you do get some great friendships going on, don't you? And you meet people, and they attend events repeatedly like you, and so very soon you're in a room full of friends rather than a room full of would-be friends or strangers. It's lovely.
Yes, I totally agree with you, and I'm a WordCamp addict.
Yeah.
And if I could, I would go on every continent.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be nice.
Let's travel together.
Yeah.
And go somewhere, some places. Okay, so you mentioned that you were doing like work for client with websites before to have a show, or are you still doing that, or in parallel?
No, so I was doing, freelance work. It was very much a local business, so it was just me, but I would get in other people to help me with bits that I wasn't particularly good at or willing to do, and that worked really well. Being a little rural is the wrong word, but it's a small community. I don't live in a big city, and it means that you get to know everybody. And it didn't take long for me when we moved here to sort of establish that. And so word of mouth travels. And so I was building client websites for years. And then the podcast was just a gimmick. It was just something for a bit of fun. It was entirely the sort of thing that I would do on an evening or a weekend. But slowly the two things went in different directions. So the client one went down as the podcasting one went up. And then at some point, I couldn't tell you when, several years ago, I said farewell to my last client, and now I just do podcasting, which is a thing that my children can't quite cope with. When people say, "What do you do for a living?" and I do a podcast, there's always this impression that, oh yeah, that's not really a job, is it? What what are you doing with your life? But that is now what I do. I make content, audio content, video content, that kind of thing. So yeah, the clients are gone.
Okay. And when you were working with client at the same time, how did you manage time between the two activities, I would say?
Yeah. Basically, I just did the podcast as an evening and weekend thing. So I would do it in the evenings and weekends, just in my own spare time, and keep the client things going during the Monday to Friday. So there was never really an overlap in terms of time. One didn't eat the other, but it became obvious to me that the podcast was something that I was really, really into. Do you know what? I have this habit in my life, and maybe you can identify with this if you're the same kind of character as me. I'm not very good at sticking with things. I begin things and then very quickly begin another thing, and then soon after that I'll begin another thing and another thing, and so it goes. And the things never get finished. I'm a good starter, a terrible executor. But podcasting stuck, and there was no reason for it to stick. It wasn't something that I was, it wasn't generating any revenue. It wasn't something that was other than it was just consuming my time. But I kept doing it. And so at some point my intuitions obviously clicked into gear and thought, you must like this on a fairly deep level. If you can't commit to anything in life, but you can commit to this, you must enjoy it. So at some point I just thought, well, what if I drop the clients a little bit and go in search of sponsorship? And so that's what I did. And the sponsorship kind of took over the client work. And then I got increasingly into the sponsorship thing and not the client thing. And then, the rest is what it is, history.
Nice. That's nice. Nice story. Can I ask you, how old are your children? For being embarrassed.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I've got 3 children. I have a daughter who's 20. I have a son who's 17, and I have another son, and he's 15. And so they're at that lovely age where they, they've got their own mind and their own agenda. But unfortunately, they don't have their own cars, so I have to take them everywhere still.
Yeah, because of the rural area.
The taxi service is what I've become. But they are at that lovely age where you can talk to them on a deep and profound level, and they have their own opinions, and their opinions differ from yours. And sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not so good. But yeah, lovely age, enjoying that a lot.
So you said it was strange for them to say your father is doing a podcast, or
just kind of like, what do you do? I mean, most people where we live, they own a shop or they've got a job, they're doing this, they're doing that. There's not many podcasters sprinkled throughout the society. I wouldn't imagine if you were lining up 1,000 people, I'm pretty sure that almost none of them would be a podcaster. So it's a pretty quirky thing to do, I think. But also, I think I'll say this, I'll embarrass them a bit. My kids have this relationship with things like YouTube where, they watch a YouTube video and it's all very glamorous and the people are doing amazing things and, they're famous and they're doing stupid things and all of this. And, it just looks like brilliant. And so they take the mickey out of me because the production values of my podcast is not that. I don't have this massive budget to go out and do crazy things like Mr. Beast does.
Yeah.
And so that's the comparison. They're like, they just make fun. They tell me, do you say this sort of thing? Do you say this sort of thing? And no, I don't do any of that. But yeah. It's fun.
My 3 kids are 2 years younger than yours each. So
interesting.
The elder is 17, and I don't remember if it was the first or the second. My second son who said, I said, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and one replied, I'm going to stop laughing when you get at least 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's the similar reaction. I'll laugh until you make a go of it.
Yeah. And are they into WordCamps?
No. Gosh, no. It was interesting because during lockdown, COVID, one of the first intuitions that I had was, well, we need projects because, this was in that period where the schools hadn't made any adjustments and everybody was kind of left to their own devices a little bit. So I sat them all down in front of a fresh install of WordPress. And I had this great ambition that this is what we're going to do during the course of this week. We're all going to build a website. Each of us can have our own website and I'll publish it and I'll get the domain. And honestly, it lasted about an hour. It was so uninteresting to them. And I was really kind of enthusiastic. Look, you can do this. But actually, it was quite illustrative as well as how to describe it. If you're not interested in it, it's hard. It can be hard to put a website together, even with all the tools and the plugins and the great things that we've got in the WordPress ecosystem. It was a great demonstration of, unless you're quite committed to it, building a website is still potentially quite hard. And they came across so many problems in the space of half an hour, and I answered them all. And okay, no, you have to do this. Why do you have to do that? Why? You just do. All right, that's just the way it is. Yeah. And but none of them managed to get over the line of producing a website. So I was a failure.
I can relate so much. It's for my teenagers. It's like that's the things for the old people, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's actually a struggle in the WordPress community, and how to engage the younger generation is a real
Yeah.
question, you know.
Yeah.
So
They're kind of my children have been raised in an era where every human being that they encounter has a mobile phone, and every human being that they encounter is connected through some social network. And so, there's tools to publish, and the idea of ownership to them, which is an important bedrock of WordPress, is that you own your own data. But that's quite a hard thing to get hold of. Why would that be important? Because if I put it on, I don't know, I say things like Facebook, and none of my children, well, my children tell me that no children of their age use Facebook, not one. They're all on these other platforms. There's myriad other things, but they haven't encountered that, and it's okay for them to post it on those networks, and they don't see the importance of that. I guess one day maybe that'll bite them. If an account gets hacked, or an account gets cancelled or deleted or something like that, perhaps that will hit home. But the social networks and all of those things, they provide what they want. They can publish, and that they haven't got an interest in publishing to the population as a whole, the world. They're just interested in the direct communication or the group messaging or whatever it may be.
yeah.
And I think in the WordPress space, we are going to struggle with the generational thing. You only have to go to a big WordCamp to see the age. There's not many teenagers there, is there? Not really.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, there was 22 years old at the Switzerland Community Day that we
nice.
organized some time ago, and she's aspiring teacher.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and what she said, it's actually in the notes. We took notes. It was a conversation about Meetups WordCamp's contribution, and it was like eye-opening. She said the competing proprietary platform are working with influencers on TikTok. They pay them, and so there are like 400, 500 influencers that promote that platform. Also starting with a W, but in 3 letters.
Yeah, and they have giant marketing teams as well.
Yes.
Because they're a for-profit, and I don't have any clue what kind of revenue stream they have, but I'm imagining it's fairly decent. And my understanding is they've got a marketing team of about 400 people. I'm getting this from, I think Jamie Marsland came with that statistic.
Yes.
And that's big, because we don't have anything like that, because it's a philanthropic effort and the marketing team is made up of volunteers. We've got an uphill struggle, because most people, I would imagine, if they're looking for a website, they're going to be influenced by, I've seen that 3-letter word creation tool.
Yeah, that's why she said if we would have young influencers doing the same for WordPress, it would be a game changer. That was the game changer word that struck me. And also, I remember in 2023, in WordCamp Europe in Athens, there was a talk by Tycho de Valk.
Okay. Yeah.
I hope I don't destroy his name too much. Too much. But yeah, what he said is like he has shown. He was 16 years old that year, and he said, "I have shown the." Okay, I will say the name: the Wix and Shopify and WordPress 3 admin dashboard, and which one they recognized among his friends of the same age, and which one they preferred, which one they like, and that was more engaging to work on it. That's really things that we have to work on. And yeah, that's. And you mentioned Jamie Marsland. I love the video when his daughter come on video, and they are like total beginners, and say, okay, let's try this, and it was nice, it worked, and I will try to interview them. I might put chunk of the videos, the like best sentences, on TikTok.
Okay.
If you agree.
I agree.
I managed to have my first son to be a volunteer at WordCamp Geneva 2 years ago. But he came because I said there will be a speaker dinner and an after party.
Yes, you use the carrot and you use the carrot approach. Yeah,
But yeah.
there'll be prizes. Come along.
Anyway, yeah, okay. So being a podcaster in a rural area with teenagers is like you are the weirdo, right?
That's right. I mean, this about sums it up, Patricia. That is about right. I am the weirdo. I'll take that. That's good.
Okay. Okay, I will put the tagline or something. Okay. So about WP Builds, really, when it started, I think now you're episode 302, right?
Yeah, so we've got 300 and it's over here. I'm editing it on another screen right next to me. The next episode coming on Thursday is on 381.
Okay.
And then but we also do another show. So that's one show that comes out on a Thursday. That's just called, I don't even have a name, and that's just called WP Builds Podcast or
Yeah,
something.
okay.
And then I do a show on a Monday which is called This Week in WordPress, and that's a different one. And we're on 302 of those. So that's a combined, what's that, 683. Gosh, I've never actually worked that out. 683 episodes is what we've managed to do. Plus countless other, we've done loads of like webinars and videos with product creators and stuff like that. It's all on the website. So yeah. Quite a few.
I like the format of this week in WordPress because it's live and people can comment. I do that quite frequently.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Attend.
That's lovely.
There is always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that format. Live can be, I mean, did you already have people who say they do not want to come? Maybe you ask them, do you want to join? But they fear the live format.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting transition as well, in that when I began the podcast, it was very much a process of going out to people and asking if they wanted to be on a podcast. And of course, how else would you do it? You've got to start, and you've created this idea and you want to get people on it. But then at some point the balance went the other way, and it then became that I just put a form online and it got filled up. So no is the answer to your question, because the expectation is that if you fill out that form, you must wish to come on. And so no, and as luck would have it, we've always had a bunch of people who are willing to speak. Obviously that's an important part. If you're going to go on a live show, you need to be willing to contribute, and sometimes be talked over and talk over other people and just accept that. But also fairly outgoing, I guess, and a little bit confident. We have product creators and we have people who are just community. So no, not too much of that. And I've never really had to pull an episode because the person, wasn't that gregarious or willing to talk or whatever it was. I'm quite happy to actually, there's a few episodes where people have got back in touch with me before I've published it and said, can we do it again? Because they weren't happy with some answer that they'd given. And I said, yeah, it was fine. So we just re-recorded the whole thing, but avoided whatever it was that they thought they'd done badly. And yeah, so I've forgotten the original question, but anyway, that was my answer to whatever it was.
Yeah, I guess when you talk about the people who ask you to redo, it's for the recorded one that is published on Thursday. But I was specifically talking about the live format, because you cannot redo a live.
No, you really can't. And also we have things go wrong with the live one because it's live, So sometimes the audio on people's side doesn't work. We had who was it? I think it might have been, I can't remember. But one of the guests, every time they refreshed the browser, we got the frame of what they were doing the exact moment they came on the show, and then that just stayed there. So they were completely frozen. It was like looking at a photograph. Their audio worked, but it was Tim Nash who was on the other day, and he was just frozen, but his audio worked, and then he'd refresh and we'd get a new version. So he mixed it up a little bit, and went to different parts of the room and things like that, and pressed refresh so that it was all a bit entertaining. You can make something good out of something bad with a live show, so long as my internet doesn't break. Then it'll just keep trucking. Yeah.
But even if your internet breaks and you are not here, I think the live is continuing with the guest, right?
Yeah,
On this tool. I mean,
yeah.
this same tool that we both use.
Yeah, so that's true. Well, actually, in the settings, you have to tell it to do that. There's one little checkbox, and if you do that, it'll just keep recording. The only problem is then you've got to somehow get in and stop it, otherwise it'll just keep going forever and ever. But yeah, the tools that we've got now are so great. When I started podcasting, it wasn't difficult. Don't get me wrong, but it was certainly more difficult than it is now. And things like this, we're recording something in a browser.
Yeah.
There's a little video of me and a little video of you, and you can swap them around, and you can add music, and you can add video into the background, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's in a browser. It's so great. It's really amazing.
We have this kind of things that sometimes you put on the show, like.
Yeah, you can add in little sound effects, and you can add in captions, and it's quite nice because if you can link it to, I don't know, let's say a YouTube channel or something, then the comments can come in, and in the platform they appear as a little button almost, and you press the button and then it appears on the screen, and so people can read and see who said it and all that kind of thing. It's amazing. We live in an amazing time.
I think we can name them because they are so good, and both you and me are using the same tool. So so it's wave.video.
Yeah.
It's a very good platform, and as soon as we end the recording, we can have the video to open in the studio to the editor. So yeah, very nice.
It really is a great tool, actually. There's a whole bunch of rivals. There's one called StreamYard. There's another one called Restream, and there's many. But I settled on this one because I like the options that it's got available, and I also like the fact that it kicks you out at the end when you click stop. A button appears which says, I don't know, edit video or something, and you click that, and you're in it's not Final Cut on the Mac or anything, but it's a fairly decent video editor where you can chop out the bits that you didn't want and drag things around and put captions on it and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's all just done in the browser, and it's held within this one platform. And then you can publish it to YouTube if you want straight away, or in my case, I do other things with it. But yeah, it's brilliant. Wave.video. It's really good.
Exactly. And you mentioned Restream, but actually from wave.video, you can stream to Restream. And from Restream, there are like 40, usually gaming-oriented, a lot of platforms. So you can
I
even
use
stream
that
to a lot of places. So.
Yeah, I stream using RMTP, or is it RTMP? I can't remember. But anyway, that protocol. Stream from Wave into a variety of different platforms like LinkedIn and YouTube. But then I also stream it out to Restream, which then will send it to Twitter, because Wave doesn't go to Twitter. And a couple of other places that I excuse me, that I can't remember now. But I use it for that as well. It's good.
Yeah, very, very nice. So about this technical equipment and stuff, so you mean over the years it has become easier and easier?
I think the tools that you can get to download onto your computer or in the browser, honestly, you can do all of it in a browser. There's not a single bit of the process of creating a podcast that you cannot do in the browser anymore. But there's no reason to do it that way. So that's what I meant by the tools have got better. Like this platform that we've got now, this one that we're using, Wave.video. 5 years ago, there was nothing like this, to set up a live stream. And this will take 10 people all at the same time and you can change the order and change the shape of the videos that we've got. And, it's simple UI. Anybody that has access to a mouse and can see the screen, anybody can do a live show, or in this case, we're recording it through the exact same platform. We're not going live anywhere. I don't think so. Anyway,
no.
No, and it takes 20 seconds to figure out all the options. It does, doesn't it? You log in and there it is, and you just click thing. Oh, it does that, and it does that. And like, oh, brilliant! I'm ready to go. So that's what I meant by the tools have got better, the web-based tools, but the Mac apps and things like that, the Logics and the Final Cut Pros, they probably have got better, but I've tended to go more towards the online tools now to record everything, just because it's so much more straightforward, and sharing links is easier. The platforms will share a link automatically to all your guests and things like that. So yeah, that's what I was meaning there.
Yeah. So you didn't really have technical challenges with your show. I'm sorry, I don't say podcast phone. There is video. I say show because podcast for me is audio only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so you never had to face like very difficult technical challenges or things that stopped you to start it or to continue? Or
yeah. So I began the one that's now This Week in WordPress. I began that as a pre-recorded thing where I would literally stand just there, and it was audio only. And I put a microphone, a really cheap microphone. Honestly, it was like $15 or something. It was really cheap, and I put it on a camera stand, and I would have a piece of paper that I'd written down what I wanted to say, and I'd click record and read out what I wanted to say and make up the rest of it as I went along. And then a few times I had to re-record it because I accidentally kicked the mic stand, and because the mic was so cheap, you got this boom, this real loud noise. So I had to re-record it. But that's how I started that. And then now, as soon as these online tools became available, that's what I just migrated to. So if you are keen to start a podcast or something like that, there really is no burden to it. It's dead simple. There's a little cost. You have to you have to be having a subscription. I think both you and I were lucky enough to pick up this platform on a deal, which meant that we didn't have to keep paying a monthly fee, which is great. But I don't suppose Wave will be much more than, I don't know, $20 a month or something like that.
For the business plan that we have, it's 48 a month.
Oh gosh, okay. So you and I did very well off that lifetime deal. I'm quite pleased with that. The only other thing you need is a mic, but well, actually, if you're doing a podcast, so audio only, really all you need is a computer and a mic. And if you buy a mic which plugs into your computer, that's even better. Because you can record straight onto the hard disk of your computer, and you don't need a good mic. You genuinely don't need a good mic. Obviously, if you're doing it like I do, it's kind of a nice thing to have. But $30, you'll find something that's half decent. And I've got this thing here called a pop filter. Like $8 or something like that. It's just cheap. But you can make it yourself if you get a coat hanger and bend it and then put some material in between. That'll work. And this is just to stop the they're called plosives. So it's the P's and the S's, that sort of thing from the air coming out of your mouth hitting the mic. This is a mic which has a USB connection, so it goes straight into the back. A lot of mics have this thing called an XLR connection, and that's the round one with 3 pins in it. And in order to get that to work with a computer, you'll need some sort of audio interface. So I would advise getting a USB one to start with, because it just means that you'd have to buy the additional audio interface, and then you can record it straight onto your computer, or do what Patricia's doing. You don't even need that. It's just recording it in the cloud, and then when it's finished and you click stop, you'll just download the recording. It's all done for you. Yeah.
I have Rode Wireless Go, and it records a backup inside the microphone, in case the audio is not there or didn't record correctly. So I have a backup track.
Yeah, I have a similar thing. Mine's if we're getting nerdy, I have this similar. It's called a DJI. Oh, where's the camera? It's like that, and it's same thing. This is great, right? This little bit is the sort of workhorse. It sits on top of your camera, or it can just be in your pocket or whatever, and then it connects to these little things, which is what you're wearing basically, isn't it? It's got a little mic on the top, and you can attach this little, what they call a dead cat. Yes. And attach the little dead cat so that if it's windy or something like that, it'll get rid of a little bit of that. And then it's brilliant because you just press go on this, and it records it in multiple places. It records it onto here and onto these, and then you can download it onto your computer. Anyway, sorry, I got a bit nerdy there, didn't I?
Yeah, that's great. So you and me are ready to do some TikTok, like a street interview,
Oh, yeah. I kind of bought it with the idea that that's what I do at WordCamps. But I quickly discovered that most people at WordCamps, they don't really want to be accosted by me, and have an interview. And I kind of like to set them up now so that I know that person is aware of what they're expected to do, and they've got a time to do it in and all that kind of stuff. So I've never really used them. I've tried it, but it didn't sit too comfortably with me.
So maybe you can go in the streets and you ask a question like, "Do you
Yeah,
know what is WordPress?"
yeah, yeah,
And like we
yeah.
we could do like I do the same, and then we compare.
Oh gosh, I am not committing to this, Patricia, because I know I won't do it.
Okay. Okay. So if there is no technical challenge and no challenge with people, because you said there was never anything that you had to cut. I mean, people in the WordPress community are mostly nice. So there was no like bashing or stuff like that. You never had to.
No,
No. Okay.
no, and that is miraculous actually, and that hadn't really occurred to me too much, but I think you're right, and also it's a big enough ecosystem, or let's say community that no ecosystem I think is better, because there's quite a lot of people who use WordPress who are not actually part of the community, probably not even aware about it, but they might pick up a WordPress podcast because they've Googled something that they want to, want an answer to. It's big enough that there's an audience, but it's also big enough that there's a lot of people out there who have things that they want to get out, whether that's something that they did, or a project that they're working on, or a plugin, or a theme, or a block. There's always stuff to talk about. It never runs out. And if it was a teeny community, maybe having a podcast would be more tricky. I mean, in the other direction, there's, if I was talking about smartphones or something, obviously that community would be even bigger. It would be more or less all of the world. But WordPress is big enough that you've got an audience and you've got guests enough to keep going. But it's not too overwhelming in terms of its size. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So what I wanted to say is that you never had to face like to say to someone to shut up, actually.
No,
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 but because
no.
because of this friendly community we have.
I
So,
get ahead of that a bit. Sorry to interrupt. Shall I stop? Do you want to?
no, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I get ahead of that by creating show notes, which I share before. So every episode, I write out a whole bunch of things, and the template for that begins with some expectations. And one of the expectations is things like, find a quiet spot, dedicate some time to it. If you've got a mic, use a mic. If you've got headphones, put the headphones on. Yada yada yada. And also, if I'm in the mood, I'll write the questions out. Some questions just to kick the conversation off. Also, give them an opportunity to write what they want to say, so that I can be led by them a bit as well. And that, I think, would, anybody faced with that documentation would think, oh, okay, I need to have something to say. And I've always done that. I've always created those show notes because it just felt like the best way to sort of prepare people. And maybe that's part of it as well, but I don't know.
Yeah. So you never face any problem by what I by what I hear. So that's
No,
great.
no,
And it's
I'm very lucky.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's actually a good news for me, because I'm starting with that WP Mondo show,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we'll have more people, because the goal is to have other people interview in other languages.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Nice.
that's yeah, I love everything is whatever is about languages, and whatever is about like cultural and differences that we can all learn from each other. That's I'm very passionate about this, so I want this to be shown in this show. I already had someone for French that I will publish soon, before or after you, I don't know. So that's great. And yeah, so because you never faced any challenge, so that's wonderful, and as I said, a good news. So maybe we could talk about what would be your advice for an aspiring podcaster or web show host, or someone who want to start.
Yeah.
As you said before, just start.
I don't have a lot of wisdom, but I've got a couple of things, but they're not particularly profound, but here they come. The first thing is, if just commit, do it. And, if after a few weeks you're not enjoying it, then, cease. And that's that. You've not enjoyed it. It wasn't for you. But I had a weekly cadence, which I just stuck to. And it's a miracle to me that happened. So that would be my first bit of advice. Just set a cadence and just go for it. The second bit of advice I've now forgotten, which is absolutely ridiculous, but that is the state of my brain. What was the second bit of advice? It was something along the lines of, oh yeah, don't forget your second bit of advice. No, it wasn't that. I've forgotten. I had two bits, but one of them's gone. So the first one I'll stick with is cadence. Oh, yeah. No, I've remembered it. It was slight aberration of the brain there. Is be quiet and listen. That is to say, if your job is to interview, nobody's tuning into my podcast to listen to me. They're coming to listen to the guest, right? That stands to reason. When you watch a chat show on telly, we have this one in the UK called, Graham Norton, but there's a bunch of others. Actually, he's maybe a bit of an exception because he's quite a character. But I'm not really tuning in to watch Graham. I'm tuning in because this guest is on and this guest is on, and that would be the same with the podcast. So give the guests time to talk. Listen to what they say and respond to what they say so that the conversation goes on a journey. It's not just the same thing every time. Actually, there are some podcasts in the WordPress space that buck that trend. So Michelle Frechette has a podcast where the whole premise is that she asks the exact same questions to every guest. And that works because you know what's coming, right? But you're still listening to the guest. So listen.
Coffee talk.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you. And so that would be it. Yeah, those two bits. Listen to the guest and the other one, which I've now forgotten.
Do it and commit to a cadence.
No, I was joking that time.
Okay. But I think to each their own format. And
right.
I think I was interviewed by Remkus de Vries on within WordPress. And he said it's not an interview, it's a conversation. So it was a bit different than what you say, because also we had a conversation with also his part, so that was a bit different. But I think every format is good to try or to test. And
I think maybe I misspoke there, or at least misrepresented what I was trying to say. What I meant by listen was whatever comes out of the guest's mouth should inform what you say next, so that it is a conversation, if you know what I mean. So it isn't that you just be quiet, let them speak, and then you say something. It's more that, okay, they said that. I didn't expect to hear that. Well, we'll go with that rather than this list of things that I've got written down. We'll go on a journey and see where it ends up, and that, yeah. So I think actually we're in agreement about that.
Yeah. And I actually had written some topics for you, and I didn't even look at it, because in the flow of conversation is like if I was having a drink with you at a WordCamp.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it'd be a bit weird if at a WordCamp you took out a list of questions whilst we had a chat. Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah. And I think people are really fascinated by those kinds of conversations, aren't they? We all love hearing what other people have got to say, and on a podcast that's probably more true than ever. You are tuning in, expecting to hear that kind of conversation. So yeah, it just works. It's a nice format.
Yes. Do you have anything you want to address? Any other topic that we have not been talking about, or you want to keep going on personal thing, or what you think of the future?
I think the future is really bright for WordPress. I know that there's a lot of change happening in the project. We've got WordPress 6.6 today.
Yes.
Is coming out today, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, WordPress has, over the last 5 years, but really ramped up in the last couple of years. Lots and lots of change, and I have no reason to doubt that the software, the product, the community is going to go from strength to strength. It certainly feels that way to me. The other thing to mention is that if you don't like WP builds, I do another podcast actually in the WordPress space, which is called Jukebox, and it's on the WP Tavern website. So if you go to wptavern.com, depending on when you listen to this and when you go to that website, I don't know where that podcast will be, but it'll certainly be in the menu. If you go to the podcast menu at the top right of the screen on a desktop, the episodes will be in there. And that's another take. There's a little bit more, how to describe it. It's a different flavor to it. And there's a lot of live stuff that I do at events. So I go to WordCamps and actually interview people who've just come off the stage and things like that. I don't actually do it in the public arena. We have a media room at those kind of events, so I do them there. But that it's a different flavor, and it's obviously a different publication, and it's not one that I'm in charge of. It's different, and it's going through a period of change at the minute. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, yeah. It's not. It must not be the same if you have to do it. Even if I know that you have no pressure about the content, but you have to do it seriously. On your own. I mean, if something happens, it's your own. It's your choice.
Right.
It's no one is going to tell you that it's not going to do it because it's yours and it's like your house.
Yeah, there's definitely a sort of freedom that comes with having your own thing, whereas it's I have a different hat that I wear, if you like, when I do that podcast, and I think in many ways it's for the betterment of that podcast, the Tavern one, because it does create a different sort of atmosphere, and we have a different type of guest on, and I cover things differently. I don't get into sort of self-promotional stuff on the Tavern. It's more community based, and that, those kind of things, what's going on with the community, what's going on with the platform, the software, all of that. Whereas on WP Build, I sort of have that license because it's mine. I can, if somebody wants to come on and they just wanted to talk a long time about their product, that's fine. We can do that. So yeah, different things. Sorry, so very self-serving, all of that. I apologize.
It's good. On WP Tavern podcast, I listened to a few of the episodes you did, and I love your energy and your enthusiasm when you like something. I mean, we can really hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I really do like a lot of what's going on there as well, and that's one of the things I have to pinch myself about. Is that I just get to talk to people. That's literally what I do, is talk for a job, and sometimes these people are really quite profound. They come up with some innovation or some part of the community that I'd never heard of, and it really is very often I sort of go, wait, hang on, what did you just say? No, let's go through that again. I didn't fully understand. We rehash it and get to the bottom of whatever it is, but it's nice.
One that was specifically like you were so amazed. It was, I think, with about the Activity Pub, and you had Matthias Pfefferle.
Yeah, I love all that. So this is things like the Mastodon and the Fediverse and stuff, and I just think that's such an interesting take on social networks, and it's about time would be my take on it. So it's less of a walled garden. So it's like Twitter, but it's federated, so it's not owned by one particular entity, and you can migrate your accounts between all the different servers. And it's well worth checking out. Yeah. Thank you. That was a good one. I enjoyed that.
Indeed. So thank you so much. If you want to add anything else, you can.
No, not really. I think I've probably done enough promotion to last a lifetime. I would just like to say thank you for inviting me on. I'm enormously humbled that you would want to talk to me about podcasting. That's great. I really appreciate the opportunity to have a chat with you. It's lovely.
That was a great pleasure, and I'm very very much looking forward to see you next time. In another WordCamp somewhere.
Yeah, I'll be there. As many as I can get to, I get to. Commitments of life get in the way, but the ones that I can, I'm there with. I'm there in heart, soul, body, and mind. Yeah, something like that.
And heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so thank you so much, Nathan, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely to chat with you.